So thanks everybody for coming. If anybody just saw my lecture talking about sacred union, this is kind of surrounding like what that means. I mean, really, sacred union is reconnecting with something within ourselves, which of course will shift our physical reality because, you know, as long as we're in an unhealthy relationship with ourselves, we're probably going to manifest unhealthy relationships. Sometimes there are healing agreements, though, where two people can come together in a conscious way, knowing, you know, we got stuff to work on here. I mean, I don't think any of us don't have that. But the not good part of it is when there's unconsciousness or denial or personality traits that are developed from, you know, some form of wounding or negativity that isn't, you know, being addressed. And so it just, you know, can manifest as abuse or verbal, you know, just all sorts of dynamics that aren't healthy. And so, the same thing's going on a macro level as far as the planetary body goes. Our quality of how we are with each other, like unity consciousness and seeing ourselves as leaders and taking a more proactive role, you know, will offset the negativity that comes from, you know, denial of ourself and why we might rely on governments or something outside of ourselves. I mean, I understand there's 7 billion people on the planet. It's like, drivers like, we got this. It's like, and then you look at all the traffic and like go to the grocery store, like, shit, there's so many people. Like, and half of them are gonna, like, even know where to begin with this. So, I mean, I guess we can have our places, which we're doing here, you know, to really energize this and just hopefully, I mean, I think we have reached a certain tipping point. What I've noticed is not that people are fully awakened to conspiracy, but I see a lot more friendliness. Or I don't know if something's shifted in me, but it's like everybody's super friendly. Like just in the grocery store line or just, you know, and a lot of it is because I have a more open heart instead of kind of wanting to just have my invisible cloak on. And so, you know, that resonance is there. But, you know, the thing is, even if people are immersed in the matrix, if they have a good heart, if they carry a high frequency of love and care about what they do and their families and their children and the earth, I mean, they're actually in good shape. I mean, this conspiracy stuff isn't for everybody, but I don't think you have to know it in order to ascend. I think you just have to, you know, stay heart-based, and that other stuff will catch up later. But anyway, so when we look at energies about sacred union, I just want to start with this quote from Lisa Renee. And she has energeticsynthesis.com. She's a really good friend, and we do very similar work. So, true spiritual marriage as a part of natural biological spiritual ascension was stolen from humanity through the negative alien invasion, and the pain of that theft and emotional abuse has damaged many people's hearts. So, I mean, people deal with pain in different ways. Some turn to addiction, some turn to sort of matrix addictions that are fed to us. Some people disassociate and get so lost in the programming they can't really look at the wound, and they're dealing with wounds that are, you know, more about the programming and how insulting it is to the soul, you know, and how much that hurts. But some people are able to look beyond that and really get to the truth, and others really allow it to control them. I mean, look at just, you know, young children or people that, you know, want to go under the knife to change the way they look, you know, for whatever reason. There's no judgment on it. Some cases maybe it is appropriate, I'm not here to say. But the way that culture has programmed, you know, individuals, it's not, even whatever it looks like on the outside, it doesn't mean that, you know, people are really in agreement to it. I mean, the amount of medications and pharmaceuticals and things that people are on to compensate for this theft and damage and wound, you know, is huge. And so our culture and disease and all the things that are off are based on this. And it's based on true spiritual marriage as a part of natural biological spiritual ascension was stolen from humanity. And I'm not talking like, oh, you know, find that person and marry them, because that would be frustrating. It's like, shit, I'm not going to ascend if I don't find, like, you know, the right guy. Like, I'd be screwed right now, right? So, yeah, and I confidently know that it has nothing to do with that. We're sovereign beings. We have everything we need within us. But, you know, that's definitely a part of being human. I mean, we're put in biological bodies, and it has needs and wants, you know. And eventually, when the timing's right, those things, you know, end up coming through. And sometimes we have to step away from it all to, you know, look at some things like this. What is the wound? What is the, what was stolen that you can reclaim? You know, there's things that we're made of that we've been tricked out of knowing are there, but you can't really steal it. They can't take our free will permanently. I mean, so this quote is true, but it's not the type of thing that's stolen for good. We have to know where it is, we have to remember and take it back. So it's great because the lost and found bin is like right inside. It's like, it's not like, oh my God, you have to call that restaurant. Like, did you see my vest that has my key in it? Actually, that happened to me, and I had to get a new key made. It cost me $250. And it's the first time I've lost my keys in a while, or ever. I lose everything else, but I'm not the keys. I was just like, what? So anyway, it's good to know that whatever was stolen is right inside. And we are activating each other right and left all the time, reminding ourselves, whether we're triggering each other or, being that hug that you needed just when you needed it most, or just that smile or laughter, or just, coming together. We're helping to rehabilitate. But if we don't have the right perception about it, sometimes we can miss, what the real message is. So anyway, we are in a 15-dimensional time matrix. And take it or leave it, I'm not here to say this is, I have the ultimate truth here, but with all the research I've done and the common threads of information from different people that I really feel good about, and from my own journeys as a multidimensional being, some of the information, the reason I'm sharing it is because beyond a reasonable doubt, I feel it's true. Being an astrologer and understanding numerology and understanding, these different levels and kind of how it all works, it's like, yeah. And I kind of do muscle testing when I do presentations, and the same thing with my tarot cards. If I do a reading for you, and that reading is complete, I can't shuffle anymore. And my hands won't let me, and it's just, and then sometimes I'm just like, just do it anyway, like what's going on? Like I can shuffle again, but just my thumbs, they're not working. And so it's wild, so, and it's reassuring because obviously it's gonna be an accurate reading because I can't do anything but read the cards now. And there's a stopping point where it's just like, okay, message in. Okay, so I don't know why I got off on that tangent, but 15-dimensional time matrix. Yeah, so when I'm putting slides together and this and that, it has to really be in resonance. And, there is that point of, you don't have to go any further than there, like stick here, stay here. And, but it's going to affect people differently. Some people might take in one side and not take in another side. I mean, I have a really hard time taking in certain information. So I like to try and simplify it and not keep it so complex because it does sound complex. But again, this is the micro-macro thing. And some of the terminologies, might be terminologies you've never heard, but it is just, I mean, they can be defined if somebody says, can you just explain what that means? So in this 15-dimensional time matrix, everything's broken up into harmonic universes. Dimensions 1, 2, and 3 are Eartha, dimensions 4, 5, and 6 are Tara, dimensions 7, 8, and 9 are Gaia, and dimensions 10, 11, and 12 are the Lyra avatar universe. So that's in our DNA. That's not like, oh yeah, that other higher earth energy over there somewhere. It's like, no, that's like a switch that you're gonna learn how to turn on and begin to experience those energies. But the thing is, when we are in dimensions 4, 5, and 6, on the planetary system Tara, where Tiamat exploded, that higher earth actually sank into harmonic universe 1, dimensions 1, 2, and 3. And the density changed, we changed, the whole scenario connected to controller groups and the way extraterrestrial beings have been involved in sort of these experiments or the new seeding of the human race with all these different ideas. I mean, Corey Good talks about 22 different ET genetics, 22 different competing agendas that they're trying to kind of work out. And so there's, a lot there. So when we sank into this lower harmonic universe, immediately the goddess energy morphed into it and seeded it as a 13-dimensional planet. So even though the density got thicker, the potential has always been there for us to remember the right use of power so that we can get our DNA switched back on again. And yes, a lot of us have to pay the price because somebody else didn't use their power correctly. It's kind of like when, that person, drops a glass on the ground. Now it's like you have to wear shoes now if you're in that building. It's like it always takes something to create a rule because of an error in judgment or this or that. So we're all kind of, we're a part of it though. It's in our soul architecture. So again, it's not really about blame, but here we are in this low density. But it's seeded with the potential for us to go all the way, back into full-on DNA activation and connection to the energy matrix, which is the Trinity, which is why people say, oh, we have the capacity to be gods and goddesses, or we are gods and goddesses. Well, some people get really excited about that and think, oh, therefore I can do whatever, you know? And they lose that understanding of integrity, and it becomes, again, a power trip, which brings about the same sort of issues that we've dealt with before in Atlantis and in this higher Earth experience that, you know, basically failed or crumbled or fell because of this power hungriness, this greed, this service to self mentality. And so hybridization and mingling with, you know, other genetics and creating belief systems and ideologies that would steer people away from direct connect with source was the name of the game. And so we carry those memories or those experiences, and they become sort of locked into us, and if we want to wake up and clear it, we just have to kind of go through it, and we, you know, manifest experiences and connections with people to work this stuff out. It's kind of like, you know, I don't know why that person just rubs me the wrong way. It's like, oh yeah, and if you really go into it, it's like, yeah, oh, yeah, I remember on Atlantis, I remember being dragged off into a cave, you know, whatever, you know what I mean. It's just like, can we work that out so I can move on? I don't know why I met you, and actually, why did I even go to the store that day to run into you? It's like, so anyway. So the 15-dimensional time matrix isn't quite the same as it was because dimensions 4, 5, and 6 sank into dimensions 1, 2, and 3. So when we think of these numbers, well, 1, 2, and 3 has a lot to do with our personality, nature, our ego. And we're talking DNA and its connection to chakras and frequency. So dimensions 1, 2, and 3 connect to our root chakra, our solar plexus, and our second chakra. Dimensions 4, 5, and 6, we're going into the heart. We're going into the fifth, which is the throat, which is alchemy. And then the sixth, which is actually the lovers. So if you look at the pentagram with 5 points, what brings that into balance? The number 6. And what's that? It's the lovers. Yay! And what that does is it completes the alchemy in a lot of ways. So when we connect with our masculine and feminine, we're able to stay in that balance, and then we're always connected to the ether. The reversal has to do with almost the divorce, even though that you can never divorce the Christophia, but how we've created belief systems that separate us from it. Then the 5, you know, being inverted without the 6th, now we're dealing with the 5th chakra stuff. So we talk about 5D Ascension. Oh, the 5D Ascension got hijacked. Well, how did it get hijacked? Because we haven't mastered the alchemy. And the alchemy happens from our voice, the things we energize. I mean, and we catch ourselves all the time, you know, when you're being negative, you're just like, oh, this is going to suck, or like, you know, nothing good's going to happen for me, and I don't even know why I'm, you know, like, I'm just worth it. It's just like, okay, your creative energy is like picking up on all of that, and it's generating reasons to really feel that way, unless, you know, there's a gold nugget in there, and you manifest somebody who says, snap out of it, damn it, love yourself, and then you're like, oh, thank you, whatever. And then you get yourself back on track. But the whole deal is that when we sank in density, we've been challenged with a 5D ascension because we've needed to get our voice back. And the tree of knowledge has been targeted, mind control, so our voices. You know, there's frequency modulations that affect the things that we say, you know, and that's what makes it hard in relationship. Because everything would be great, especially if you know you have the chemistry. It's like, why can't it work out? It's because I cannot believe what she just said, or what he just said. Like, did he really just say that? It's like, we haven't mastered our voice. We haven't mastered the greatest creative tool we have to shift the whole planet. Because if we could energize our dreams and visions and speak things into the environment that we'd like to see manifest, then there wouldn't be this hijacking. The hijacking is people turn on the news. They're talking about, you know, the election, or they're talking about the latest false flag. And that voice keeps generating that reality into the environment because, you know, instead of doing alchemy and instead of being in charge as a creative being, all this other stuff is infecting our creative energy. So we kind of sank because we lost the sacred union of the 6. Then the inversion happened. We lost our capacity to really speak. And then our 4th chakra has been a breeding ground for astral entities. Either because we're taking on all the crap of the world, because we're being sensitive and we feel it all. You know, so on the astral, it's just like a war zone. Like, you know, all these entities are just like, you know, we're just, you know, not really in that higher heart activation. We're just sort of responding to our environment, and we're lost in issues of self-worth and what love means, and why does love hurt, and why is there pain connected to it. And so when we move beyond the concept of love and balance, we can begin to graduate into dimension 7, 8, and 9, which is in our DNA. And when we go into 7, 8, and 9, now we're in the monadic integration. 7, 8, and 9 represents where Orion and Andromeda split. And when we sank into the lower density, we lost connection to the 7 higher heavens. And it's in the 7, 8, and 9 that gets reconnected, and it's called monadic integration. And then, once we get that piece, then we go into hierogamic union, which is like the Christ Sophia, and it's the sacred union. But it's all the alchemical marriage. And this is what's been stolen from us, because we don't hear about this stuff at all. A lot of times people, get lost in their jobs or their work, and relationship is just over there, and working things out is like, oh, do I really have to listen to you? Like, there's so many things that we see in television or movies that just make creating a beautiful relationship not the priority, or a beautiful relationship with the self. It's more about what can you buy and what can you do to be better, look better, or have control over a situation. Just the programming of the masculine and feminine is just ridiculous. We don't even have to go there. Just looking at magazines and what's happened to the sexual energy and how people play with that in cultures, I don't even want to go there. Triggers. So 3D Earth is called Earth, but it's a 13-dimensional planet. And so that potential is within us. So if we're on a planet that's seeded with 13-dimensional potential, and we have a 12-strand DNA, and we connect with the mother energy that goes into the whole Trinity, then we are the shift. Our initiations and awakening directly impact the planet. The planet is doing it anyway, but this is sort of like a holding tank for us to figure it out. That's why she allows all these assaults and all this stuff to go on, because she's like, I'm willing to allow you to see where you're going wrong. And without this happening, you're not going to recognize, because the thing is, there is a game being played. There are entities that want to control us. So the more, we allow that to happen, either the more we don't recognize it, or the more we feel a victim to it. And then beyond being a victim to it, you recognize that you've got the upper hand here, you've got the power here, and it's got nothing on you. They either want the denial because they can easily control you, or they want the anger and the rage and the victimhood. Because as long as we're off the balance, they have some level of control, and that's why the same thing with religion. It's very repressive and very controlling. Well, what's the other side of it? Like hedonism, or like, there is no God, and it's just like these extremes. And as long as we're in the extremes, we can't find the balance. And we're the ones that know how to return home, because it's a little bit of all of it. Yeah, we need, discipline in some areas. And yes, we want to be free spirits, but why do we have to join something in order to give us permission? It's like we know it inside of our bodies. And that's the beauty of having physical symptoms or things that manifest in our world that gives us reminders. But if we don't know how to read it correctly, again, it can just take us down, a path that leads to, more, I don't want to say the word enslavement, I don't really like that word, but it makes us more stuck. And that's the thing, again, with the medical industry is a great example. So 3D Earth is called Earth, 5D Earth is called Tara, 7D Earth is called Gaia. They are future and past Earths, and they exist in our multidimensional body simultaneously. So you could have somebody walk into a room and it's like, hey, I'm vibrating at Gaia, and somebody else is just like, I'm in Eartha, dimensions 1, 2, and 3, because it might be very much about just the physical or the ego. And somebody might be like, hey, I'm a flippin' avatar. Well, we see those pictures on the wall. We're all getting there. We all have the avatar consciousness. We all have that potential, but, there's avatars walking, we all are avatars, but, we also have this human experience where, we have to feel it to heal it. So we have to be the dysfunction in order to do the alchemy. So I definitely chose a lot of dysfunction to heal, and a lot of stuff that it's like, oh, yeah, that's my warrior nature. It's not me screwed up. It's what I'm willing to carry in order to transmute it for the greater good of all. There's a few things I'm still working on, just like everybody else, of course. But so it's hard to be in our avatar consciousness when we're really here to get our hands in the dirt, to really, because it's in our ancestral patterns, and so the parents that we have and what they pass down to us gives us an idea of, okay, this is what you're here to work on. And if that's all looking good, then you might find some other thing connected to a partner you meet or a family that you end up creating that, it just kind of goes on and on. So we have to kind of experience it to heal it. And sometimes those things linger for longer than we'd like, and sometimes it's an instant healing and an instant revelation, because that wisdom is real fresh. And that's why it's important to come to these events, because we're all here to remind each other. We all take turns having our difficult days, where somebody might tell us something that we know that truth, but we just don't have access to it at that moment. And that's what unity consciousness is. It's not all, what is unity consciousness? That we all just gather together? No, it's like we have to really merge our energies, but also know where we need to have boundaries. So anyway, how we respond to this ET invasion and predator force that is negative ego, and how we connect to our spirit energy and true DNA potential determines which earth vibration we are experiencing or moving into. We change timelines and heal galactic wars when we do the inner work and face the Chiron energies with maturity and integrity. All these dimensions are existing simultaneously, and so when we address these ancient wounds, we are actually healing ourselves in creation. Above dimension 12 is the energy matrix. The Godhead and the Mother energy came into this planet as the planetary consciousness. And if that's not love, unconditional love of the Mother, I mean, everything that she goes through for us, you know, and she's got many levels to her. We've got the Cosmic Mother, you know, who pretty much stays where she's at, the Divine Sophia, the Mother energy, but then you've got the Daughter Sophia, and the whole Achamoth thing that the Gnostics talk about, and I'll get into that a little bit more. But the Daughter energy, you know, comes in and plays a real part. Whereas the Cosmic Mother energy, you know, seeds this planetary body, morphs into it, but her daughter, or the Venus energy that she personifies, you know, does, you know, the energy work in order to bring about this greater transformation. And so what it ends up doing is it helps us connect to the fourth chakra, or connect to the heart, or the Venus energy, and, you know, things like the Mars agenda, the hidden Mars agenda, well, that's an ego energy. It's Mars, it's the solar plexus, it's all about power. So when we see that weaving of Venus, and we see, you know, the ending of that Mars agenda being secretive, like that negative ego getting away with whatever in the background, then our chakras begin to merge, and our fourth chakra and our ego energy, our third chakra, can become one. So our power is the power of love. And then we can begin to move up to these other levels, and when we get to the higher monadic integration and hierogamic union, we begin to download it into our bodies, and it comes out of our fourth chakra and actually becomes a blue lotus energy, and it changes the whole nature of the fourth chakra. So I'll be getting into that a little bit, how we get that higher heart activation and we bring it in. It changes the nature of our fourth chakra, and it actually kicks butt with the astral entities. They're like, oh shoot, you know, like they figured it out, because that's the stuff that we get psychically attacked for. They don't want that. They want to keep plugging in, and it's that draining. You know, it's being a loving and kind person is brutal here, you know, and it's very easy for people to take advantage of you, and you know, all sorts of things. So when you get the higher heart energy and you're in a greater neutrality, it's like you're activating people instead of absorbing it all. And it's not terrible to be an empath. That's part of how we, you know, recognize compassion, because we feel it, you know. But there's, you know, a certain point where, you know, there's other things going on that require us to be in this higher heart energy. And a lot of us have probably already done that, you know. The thing is, why are some attacks more difficult than others? It's we either take it personally, or we're not healing the thing that they're feeding on or plugging into. You know, because they, just like our immune system, you know, give us ways to get stronger. You know, it's like a spiritual gym. You know, if the weight's being pushed on you, it's going to crush you if you don't push back. You know, so you got this big barbell coming, and it's like, it's like, oh, right, I'm supposed to go like this. And hopefully somebody's standing there if you started with too many. But then you push back, and you push back, and then all of a sudden it's just like, oh my God, Conan the Barbarian's walking out the door. You know, but I'm talking metaphorically, right? So all these things are trying to crush us and push against us and trip us up. And so it's like, no, no, no. And then it's like, yes. And then, you know, we feel strong, and a bit, you know, it does, you know, kind of get exhausting, because it just seems never ending. But there is a point in which, I mean, the thing is, we're carrying that completion in a lot of ways. We're in service, though. And so anyway, the Tree of Life, it's a 12-tree grid. If you Google the Tree of Life, you'll often see a 10-tree grid. That's the DNA of Draconians. And so they've changed the whole nature of the Tree of Life so that it's a Draconian coding. So that when we connect with the Tree of Life, or we're wearing a 10-sphere Tree of Life, we're actually wearing Draconian DNA, which keeps our frequency from those greater activations that bring us into Christ consciousness, which is the 12. 10, 11, 12 is the avatar consciousness, that marries the goddess energy, which is 13, that goes into the father energy, which is 15, which births the 14, which is the Christ Sophia. So without all 12, we're not able to create that connection. And instead, we are, you know, 10's a pretty high level, but the 10 would take us into transhumanism, because it's not getting direct connect. It's not able to go into the energy matrix and get that direct connection from spirit, which is regenerative, which helps us to become ascended masters, that helps us to be those higher beings that are the benevolent ones, that we are, that we were, that we still are. And so when we stop at 10, then all of a sudden you need technology or you need to be a vampire on others to get an energy source when you're starting to burn out, you know, because of age or this or that, or bad choices, because, you know, our chakras respond to, you know, our actions and behavior. They get clogged up, you know, easily. So anyway, so traveling through the landscape of all these different levels of ourselves are the different dimensions and densities connected to different Earth experiences. So when you know, move through densities 1, 2, and 3, then you go into 4, 5, 6, 7. We're used to the 7 chakras, and then we take it a little further and go into 8, 9, and 10, and 11, and 12. What we're doing is we're actually shifting the Earth grids also, and we're helping to reconnect Andromeda and Orion, which is what this ascension is about. And there's stargates on the planet that have been messed with to keep that from happening, because it's like osmosis. If we're born into like a world where the grids are unplugged over here, and there's a Nephilim reversal grid that's creating reversals and manipulations of some of the sacred geometries, then the minute we're born, it's just like, oh, my energy body's fucked, excuse me. And one can feel it. It's like they either people get really comfortable in the dysfunction. That's why I like the quote, it's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a sick society. But then there's the, you know, those that are sensitive. There's just something's wrong here. Why is it spinning this way? Or what's going on over here? And that's why getting unwell sometimes is really healthy, because your body's rejecting it. Is rejecting something in your environment, and it's saying, hey, there's a better way. There's a better approach. And then we begin to advance ourselves, and the very thing that seemed like it was taking us down actually rescued us. So I'm all about embracing the adversity. I really would like to not manifest anymore, just to like, whatever it's wanting to show me, it's like, okay. So anyway, after all these cataclysms, exploded planets, cataclysms, when we sank in the lower density, we are dealing with root races, 7 root races, Atlantis and Lemuria included, but they're not the original Atlantis and Lemuria that were in this Tara energy, where we had you know, this aura from consciousness as well that was starting to step down into physical matter, and that's a whole other thing. And this is a part of why these galactic wars were so intense, because every time things almost got completely wiped, they would come up, the founder races would come up with another plan to create a more advanced human that could deal with it, which is what we are. So we've been created to be able to stop the agenda, specifically. And our DNA connects with the aura from consciousness, which connects to the Trinity. Which is why when we go through those initiations and empower that, how can an astral entity or somebody carrying a lesser DNA, like a 10-strand or 11-strand, like the certain factions of the Anunnaki, how can they possibly get us? They are only trying to trick us into staying stuck with them so that they can feed on us. And so simply breaking the relationship with yourself, you know, your own negative ego, and just saying, I'm done having you ruin my life, or say the wrong thing, or make stupid choices, and I want to be empowered, and I want to, you know, really, you know, be connected to love and wisdom. And then we basically won the war, because that's what the war is really about, is keeping us from those simple, you know, revelations. So anyway, after all these cataclysms, the planet Earth tilted on its axis, which damaged all planetary gates, planetary grid networks, the portals and stargates on the planet. All the pyramids and ET technology disconnected and went offline. Flooding and cataclysm destroyed the Atlantean colonies and much of the Earth's surface. Well, yeah, so that's, I mean, it's going to be very easy for a control group to run things, because, I mean, this is why we're working with Chiron and healing the sacred feminine and the programmings of the masculine is, I mean, there's no other way, because thousands and thousands of years of being born into this damage and inheriting it and wearing different hats so that we can remember, you know, what really matters, because, you know, we carry those memories, just like, geez, I don't want to be that, whatever it was, you know, and then we carry a lot of like trauma connected to being empowered. It's like, oh God, you know, remember that, you know, being buried alive or hung on the burnt or something terrible. It's just like, it's like so heavy. It's like, you know, and it's like, can you just, where's the switch to turn off the nerve endings to not have a pain body? It's like, cut us some slack here. It's like, and like, this wasn't our idea. Like, what did we do to deserve this? It's like, there's got to be a special pill that some fairy could just hand out and say, okay, you're about to be burned on the stake, but we're gonna, you know, unswitch your pain body. I mean, because it's like now, like, when we want to move into empowerment, it's like, oh, you know, who's going to get us? Like, who's going to try and stop us? And even though we might not look at it that way, we have these things that create resistance, and those resistances create blockages. Because the thing is, the energies are wanting us to move forward and break free of all that, but we have all this unconscious stuff going on because of who we've been and where we've been in the past. And so amnesia, you know, keeps us from really being able to work the energy, and also remembering our greater abilities, of course, and that, you know, they feed on that lack of awareness. So we are now in a cycle of change where the vibration of this world is increasing and helping us to shift out of this lower dense physicality, moving us into higher earth energies, and our DNA strands that have been dormant have the potential to turn back on. The shift is within us. These energies are more available and easier for us to awaken to in these times, as the geophysics of the planet is such where the natural stargates are opening and our DNA is linked to this. Our DNA is an exact replica of the Earth grids. The controller agendas seek to shut it all down, and so we have to understand what is being targeted in order to disable it and counteract it. So what is being targeted? Most of the time, our identification with ourself is targeted. I mean, the list goes on. What's been targeted? Mother Nature, pretty much everything. So anyway, so Sophia, our feminine power within men and women, is the diamond heart within the earth body, and it is the body of the mother. The feminine principle needs to be grounded back into the earth body, because when it's not grounded, the dark mother reversals are in power, and it is the feminine enslaved and used by forces of domination and control. Patriarchy. This is where we have the power to choose what timeline we want to be on, and this is Ascension, restoring the 12 tree grid until it activates with the mother, which reunites with the father and births the Christ Sophia, which I just said. So when we look at the explosion of Tiamat, the Satanists and the Luciferian groups fed on that wound and that fragmentation. And so when we realize, we're traumatized, or we feel splintered, or we feel fragmented, or we're running some subpersonality that's not really in alignment, there's all these manipulations. There's actually patented technologies to target certain things in our emotional bodies, and in our thought forms, and in the way we relate to each other. I had a few slides, with lists of specific mind control technologies and specific things that they target. I'm not even going to try and just imagine. I'm trying to remember. It's kind of like, you're about to, have a nice little snuggle session with your partner. It's like, somebody just knocks on the door and anyway. So it's way worse than that. I just don't want to go there. Okay, so they've been feeding on this wounded energy, and that's how they siphon. Because as long as we're traumatized, we're easily controlled. The thing is, we can be traumatized and not easily be, easily controlled by just admitting we're traumatized. That's what I'm doing. I have no choice. I'm freaking traumatized. So don't control me. I know I'm traumatized. Thank you. And it's just doing your best with it, and grounding the nervous system, trying to get as grounded as possible. Everybody's traumatized. This is what has happened to the human race. So we have to, know how to deal with it. But because it's ungrounded us and got us caught in these traps and programmings, they've been worshiping this energy to keep everything in a reversal. So as long as we're grounded, we have to be grounded in order to shift that. And so that's what this ascension is about. So this is from Keylontic Science. Earth is indeed a living entity upon whose back and within whose heart you all presently reside. And yes, in polarity mechanics, Earth is female with an organically female magnetic dimensional 13 monadic core. And we are overcoming this trauma as we get back into alignment with the galactic plane. So overcoming the trauma, there's all sorts of tools, modalities, essential oils, hugs, better friends, being willing to let go of the people that aren't good for you, being willing to follow your heart, and turn the dials in your favor. The thing is, it's like we have the control panel here. We wake up to it every day, and we can adjust anything accordingly, and change the way we go about everything. But it's hard, because everything is like we're reacting to something constantly, which makes us want to grab this or do that or say this or say that. But we have to really hold space for each other and just be forgiving and compassionate and allow this shift to happen. But anyway, so the Nephilim reversal grid is responsible to break apart hybrid genetics by reversing any synthesis of alchemy that happens organically between the male and female principle, which is basically the electron-proton balance. And that's the way the earth grids are set up. That's the way our energy body is set up, if you understand, just meridians and the way the energy body works. And that's from both Keylontic Science and Ascension Glossary with Lisa. So on a soul level, if we look at it, it's like, okay, let's back up from all this terminology and all these numbers. On a soul level, it's like, basically, when the masculine and feminine differentiated and this negative ego emerged, it became an archetype. It became an archetype that seeks to control the feminine. And that can exist just in one body. We have aspects of ourselves that seek to control our own inner feminine. We have people that we'll meet that will seek to do that to us too. So we got to stop doing it within ourselves to liberate ourselves from the tendency of others to do that. And when we come into balance and we feel, that harmony and that dance, we basically redeemed that negative ego and we've purified it. and that purifies the elements because we're made of the elements. So on a soul level, the myths that we see are like Persephone and Hades, you know, just even the Egyptian pantheon stories with Set, and you know, I mean, most mythologies have sort of that dark principle, you know, that villain, you know, who just makes it all just kind of suck. But we're in a free will universe, so we're script writers of this, and so any fairy tale or any movie you see, you know, has that scenario of, you know, the dark villain and the separation of the love, and then the epic battle to, you know, conquer those dark forces and return to the love, and there you go. So we're doing that within our own beings. But we've been locked in this sort of exile where the archetype of control and domination and negative ego has basically influenced culture and is designed a culture that we're born into that is designed to keep that alive. And we're breaking that. So we have to do that inner work to be able to break it. So if we want to get out of the underworld, we better freaking rise up and not be victims to it, and hold that warrior energy and put Hades in his place. Yeah, just like you who have no idea Hades, and you thought you were, yeah. So, yeah, and it's just kind of like, because the thing is, the underworld is the mother womb, and what that energy is doing is it's controlling and suppressing it and using that energy, and creating through her, using her energy. So when we see those rituals or the Illuminati rituals and the inversions of the sacred geometries, it's all control. We see weather modification, we see, you know, chemtrails, and all of it's the same sort of mentality: control the feminine, control the feminine. Well, little do they know, spray all you want, you cannot control the feminine. There might be humans in feminine form or feminine energies within men that, you know, have been controlled, but in the larger picture, you can't screw with the 13. You can't screw with something that enters the Godhead and pure spirit and that 0 point energy. You know, the things that physically manifest you can screw with, because once it's in physical form, you know, you're a little bit vulnerable. But at the same time, when we we've had to go through this 26,000 year cycle. There are a lot of beings that came in, including Yeshua and Mary Magdalene and others, that knew that a whole lot couldn't be done until we got to this ascension window period. But they tried to reset the template, because everything's about protecting the template of sacred union. In ancient cultures, that was like everything. That's what kept the land healthy. That's what kept the kingdom thriving. It was all about alchemical union. It was all about these initiations. So anyway, so we exist in a world that's been sort of that Persephone-Hades dynamic. And now Persephone's getting out of the underworld, inside all of us, because we carry all those archetypes, and it busts down the programming. And anyway, so some representatives from other universes tried to incarnate to help the planet Earth recover from the damage and liberate the Earth inhabitants from their oppressors. Yeshua Christ and his wife Mary Sophia are one example. They knew that much couldn't happen until the galactic center aligned with the Earth and Sun, and this is where we are right now. So if you're dealing with cataclysm, things that threw the planetary body off, it's like no matter how much you're waving the template flag of sacred union, it's not going to be enough, because we're in a rehabilitation. The planetary body has to heal as a whole. Flat, round, square, I don't care. But the alignment, I mean, if you think about it, we now have a 13th zodiac sign. Where was that before? Before it was just 12. Now that the 13 here means the goddess has returned. It means that activation's happening. It means it's grounded enough in the earth for it to be the diamond heart again, instead of vacant. When it's vacant, it's a sphere that is held somewhere else. Some believe the Ark of the Covenant was holding it. But now it's back here. And then, you know, there's a bunch of Ark of the Covenants. It's also kind of a demiurgic technology, but it sort of depends. It doesn't matter. The point is, it's getting grounded back into the earth body now that the 13th zodiac has come on board, which means that our 12-strand DNA is now connecting with the mother, and now we're allowing ourselves to be truly nourished. Now we're healing the manipulation of the dodecahedron, which is connected to the ether, and we are getting the dragon energy going again in the earth grids in order to be that spiraling kundalini instead of this reptilian mindset that's only going so far, that's keeping us locked into more addiction and dominance and control and misuse of sexual energy and this nightmare that we've been in. And now it's like, now it's different. So but they need to leave their mark. But of course, religion's like, you want to leave your mark? Well, we're going to screw that up and completely like annihilate the story. And then a New Age movement. Let's create a New Age movement that really screws things up. So no matter where you turn, you know, it's going to be really hard to identify with this blueprint, because the thing is, we can't look outside of ourselves. we have to recognize that it's already a done deal within us. We just, it's a treasure that we need to just, set free. They never wanted to be worshipped. They never considered themselves higher. They were just, advanced as far as what they were embodying. But it's all in there for us. So anyway, the mission was partially successful. They could not recover the blue ray staff and mother principle force for the earth core. When we talk about the mother, we're talking about the staff. When we're talking about the father, we're talking about the rod and how that connects to the earth grids and how much that template is important for the well-being of the planet and for our ability to move into higher dimensional levels. When those things are not working well, again, it's just like the draconian DNA. You can't bring in direct connect, and so it's a feeding thing. Anyway, so there's 12 axiotonal lines. We got the left side, we got the right side. Each axiotonal line is a corresponding dimension, chakra crystal, and the frequency color. These 12 vertical lines create intersection points with the horizontal fields that project out the chakra cone and where the DNA manifests. Personal and planetary DNA damage with 7D ray, which is why it's hard to move beyond the 7th chakra, and axiotonal lines, ley lines from planetary mind, logos invasion is why the logos invasion, okay, so that's basically like the 7 archonic rulers infecting our 7 chakras. And so the planetary logos, which is connected to Gaia, which is a 7D planet, was not able to go beyond, or we haven't been able to go beyond. So that's why the Venus transits and all this work that the feminine is doing behind the scenes, within ourselves and beyond, is to correct this. To go and allow herself to be abducted into the underworld. The thing is, she knows how to handle this stuff. It's just, we inherit this stuff. So we have to kind of, understand what's going on. Because we carry different levels of that awareness. Some people don't realize they've been abducted and they've been exiled. They're happily programmed and controlled. They have no clue. So, there are different stages of awakening. But this infection of the planetary logos also connects with the father energy. The 6D and 7D is the first level of relationship between our third eye and our crown chakra. And that has been distorted and thrown off. And so that is basically the planetary mind logos invasion. That's the targeting on the tree of knowledge. To keep our DNA dumbed down and to keep us in duality. Love relationship shouldn't be about duality. That's a power struggle. And that's why we see relationships that fall into that pit all the time. But when we see the harmonious connection happen and we see that healing happen or that willingness, then the 7D gets purified. And those are the 7 gates of hell that Inanna journeys into, that Mary Magdalene freed her chakras of. Those are the different levels of going into the underworlds, to go past all those levels, and then they become the 7 pillars of wisdom, which are connected to Sophia. And that's being empowered in your wisdom body. And then once you go past that, then you're going back into the monadic integration and the hierarchamic union, and you're embodying the template. And each of us has that. That's what they tried to teach us. And that's what the alchemists, the Knights Templar, or the Christ Templars, the Essenes, they all had this knowledge, and they were massively messed with. So about the axiotonal lines, that's Lisa Renee talks a lot about that. So if you want to find out more, I'd really check out her stuff. So as we clear false and inorganic architecture from suppressing and impairing our consciousness, we are extracting the alien enslavement programming, alien implants and mind control, in order to embody our true inner Christ spirit and return to the 0-point field, the heart of the God gateway leading into the 7 higher universes. So we thought the lower 7 heavens were pretty awesome, right? It's like, no, there's way more, which is exciting. And that's when we're reconnected with Andromeda. And when we are in that sort of zero energy, we have access to all sorts of things. Clearing all this stuff is a moment-to-moment, day-to-day thing. You have to catch yourself. Are you thinking from a programming or from a wound? Usually our wounds are targeted with the programming, and we have to say, you know what, leave my wound alone. I'm going to handle it myself. Thank you very much. I don't need to buy this. I don't need to take this. I don't need to do this. And I know I've been drinking a few beers here and there again in my life. That's a little different. I do need to watch it because I got Uranus jumping on my Chiron so bad. It's just like, just need a beer to mellow out. I don't mean to drink too much. But, so, anyway, so it's a moment-to-moment thing. It's not like, there's some people that remove implants ethereally, and there's some that pull them out surgically, but we can neutralize them with our own frequency and our own thoughts and our own perceptions and our own power. And so it's something we have to always be conscious of. that's why relationships are so important, because you have to work energy to make them successful. Whether they're friendships, romantic, family energies, and it's the key to healing everything. And we've been taught that it's all about going off to that work or going off to that career and bringing in that paycheck, and just to make sure you have food on the table for your family that you don't really talk to or really know or understand. And everybody's sort of like not really talking or communicating, and and then the whole dynamic of the institution of marriage is, we see what it's been in past generations, and we also see where it's been a really good thing too, to a certain degree. So it's kind of like take what has worked and dump the rest. Let's pick and choose what we feel inspired by. I mean, not everything is terrible when we look back. So in a sense, when we connect with the mythologies that had to do with relationships, and they mostly all have to do with relationships, and light and dark polarities, and how it has become nature, we are collecting these fragmented energies, and we're reintegrating them. We need to work with nature and these archetypes and write new stories as we rebuild our DNA. The goddess journey is always about going into the underworld to connect to her crone, that inner wisdom. If you're going to go into the underworld, there's not a whole lot of light in there. So you have nowhere else to go to find the light except for within your own heart and soul. And that's the hard part of the underworld, because, I mean, so many of us go in there, but that's not normal conversation. Like if you're in class and somebody just, oh, you have ADD. It's like, no, I'm in the underworld, okay? And I cannot pay attention to this right now because it's not as important to me, okay? So enough. Like, how can you possibly tell me that there's something wrong with me? Because I'm doing something that you just don't understand. It's like when I'm spacing out, I am busy and I'm working. Leave me alone. So anyway, and it's important that we give this a voice, because there's so right, yeah. And I did make sure I had that beer in high school. But we don't give ourselves enough credit. So that part of us we become unconscious to. As we live unconscious lives, we're buying into, yeah, maybe I do have that. Maybe I do need that drug. Maybe that is wrong with me. And kids fight against it, and they know deep down that it's like they're not being heard, they're not being seen, they're not being understood. And just as conscious parents, we see the game being played, and we're trying to protect our kids. I mean, it's really dangerous out there. There's no awareness of what it really takes to be ascending. It's not a priority at all. It's like math, English, this or that, and just the routine, that we have to get good grades for. And if we don't get the good grades, it's like, then who are we? And those judgments that come along with it. It's just programming on top of programming. And so anyway, the crone, I mean, when you're in that darkness, it's like, well, you're in the womb. It's like you're in the soil. Dark isn't bad, it's soil. It's fertile. It takes seeds and it creates new life. So if you're just going to only be in the soil, it's going to be dark. But what are you able to see in there? Maybe the weeds, the seeds of the wheat, or the things that have contaminated it, that need to be purified. So there's a strong water element when it comes to the womb and the mother. As we know, the waters are connected to that energy. And so anyway, when you're in that dark, you have to remember. You have to turn your own inner light on and remember what you're doing and what you're navigating, or else it can feel like you're dying. When I was going in, I go there all the time, and I still feel like I'm dying when I go there. I'm like, oh yeah, just thought I was done. It's just, that's Pluto. Death, rebirth, alchemy, and transformation. So we got to go into that cocoon. We have to go into that almost fall, but not necessarily like a bad fall, like a fall from grace. But we're being thrown into transformation cycles because we need to get to the next level. Uranus is going to give us the current of energy that's an activation that is shocking and can sometimes throw us. And Neptune, another outer planet, which we don't have a whole lot of control over, it gives us the capacity to understand our multidimensional bodies, our creative imagination, and how to bring in other dimensional energies or to expand into ones that we have. So those energies are always kind of working us. And anyway, the mother energy would be, grounded on the earth body, and the maiden, of course, is just sort of skipping along, everything's fine, it's like, no, it's not fine. Somebody just grabbed your ankles and yanked you into the underworld. So then you find the wisdom of the crone, and then that Hades energy is just like, oh my God, he's afraid of the crone. I mean, the crone is, she's got some serious powers. If we look at those archetypes like Hecate and Kali, it's just like, I don't care what sort of evil, like, archetypal male you are, you don't want to anywhere near Kali, right? So, she stomps on them and spits them out, she's got like a necklace of skulls, and it's just, you don't want to mess with her. And we all have that aspect. So I was relating to that aspect so much, and it was just like, so anyway, and then we go through the cyclical thing, and nature and the seasons are built upon this. And this is, how this kind of earth is designed for us to remind ourselves, from, going into different seasons. Oh, it's winter, it's spring, it's summer. I mean, those that are pagan religion, or I don't like the word religion with paganism, but, they understand this. So anyway, the goddess journey is about integrating those aspects. This is something that is a part of nature's cycles, but personified in the goddess, and the necessity to purify the hell worlds back into the mother womb. Because the thing is, yes, there is hell, but there's not the biblical hell. There's hell as in, this is crazy, this is chaotic, I'm angry, I feel manipulated, I feel controlled, look at what's happening out here, it's like, this is hell! And then we do the energy work, and we go into our darkness, and we pull out the things that need to be pulled out. We claim our power and our ability to create, our birthing power, and we begin to choose the thought forms, the ideas, the seeds that we want to generate into our environment, and we know what to say no to. And that's part of our life experience. And that's what purifies the mother womb, because instead of feeling haunted in the darkness or disconnected, we're feeling empowered, and we're reminding ourselves how to be creators and co-creators, instead of feeling at the mercy of everything that gets thrown. Because the minute we're about to take a huge leap in consciousness, very often there's a false flag in the news. So just as we're about to get something, all of a sudden we turn on the TV, it's like, oh, a bombing, or oh, this or that, or oh, now everybody's talking about this, and can you believe Milena, did this with her speech? It's like, I mean, just, it's everywhere. And I guess that would be an important thing to report on, but I have nothing to do with the government, I have nothing to do with politics, and I've never voted, so that's not my timeline. I don't know that world, I don't speak that language. All I know is I want to expose their criminal activity because they should be put away. I don't need to get into the rest of it because they're criminals. I mean, it's just like, and they don't mean to be. I mean, maybe they, of course they do. They allowed it. I mean, but they're not really in possession of themselves. And there are some good people in there for sure, and I absolutely support them. But I can't get into the political arena to try and do that. I know once you're in there, your hands are tied, and that's all I know. And so, Eisenhower in a way was one of the first whistleblowers, like, but he had to do it on his way out. And then it's just like, and I was like, hey, I'll come in and I'll finish the rest for you. It's just like, what the hell was I thinking? So the Venus archetypes are what take this journey to wake up the goddess in Albion and rise with the Christ Sophia, which redeems Lucifer. The Venus archetypes are connected to Lucifer and the Christ Sophia. The thing is, it's about completion, though. It's good to embrace that Lucifer energy. It has to do with free will. It has to do with sovereignty. It has not true sovereignty, though. It just has to do with, like, I'm going to do things my way. But there are other parts of us that know better, that will redeem that energy and allow the completion of the Venus transit, going, the morning and evening star to rise again, and that's really what the alchemy, is also about, redeeming that energy, bringing it into the light, bringing it into balance. Because when we're off balance, we're actually running that energy, which is, So the same energy network, axiotonal lines that are present in the personal light body, is also interconnected to the larger planetary axiotonal lines. The larger planetary body has an energy network, which is an exact replica of our personal energy network, and this expands throughout the unified field of energetic layers that comprise the planetary, galactic, and universal consciousness energy systems. And that's from the Ascension glossary from Lisa. So, and I've known this, about the energy. I do so much reflexology, and all the organs are at the bottom of the foot. So I'm like, okay, 12 stargates, 12 DNA strands, 12 main organs. Ding, 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 right? So Pisces, the 12th sign. Pisces, the feet, have all the organs of all the other signs and what they rule. So when you do reflexology and you connect the organs to the stargates, to the ley lines, and the progression of this love story and how it completes itself, just doing energy work or Reiki or rubbing your feet, you're doing some serious stuff for the planet. And so I used to study things where, I could break apart the day and like, this is when the liver energy is most activated. So if I want to heal someone with the liver, I only need to like have a tincture once, instead of all throughout the day when the liver's not even being activated. There's a certain time of day where different organs and different stargates and different things are being activated, and that's the time to address it. And when you can figure it out and say, okay, it's 10 o'clock, liver's being activated, let me have some milk thistle. It's like, your body is that much more receptive and it can heal that much faster. But if we do it like at a time of day where the stomach's being activated and we're trying to deal with the liver, we just hope it's still in our system by 10 the next morning so it can do its work. And I don't have that kind of time to process it anymore like that. I'm just like, I just take tinctures all the time. I'm like, I'm sure I'll cover all bases somehow, but I just don't have that kind of time. But that's sort of the entry point for me when I got into alternative medicine, because I took microbiology and I'm just like, This is just not the way it works. It's not, science and consciousness are one. So anyway, the Christ Templar knowledge of the earth grids and stargates was hijacked to remain in secret societies in order to, for those to continue their abuse of power, perverting its original intention and purpose. Therefore, the Templar knowledge is extremely abused by those who use knowledge of the dragon power lines for their own selfish greed of materialism and tyranny. The negative alien agenda achieves this enslavement agenda through the abuse of Templar knowledge of the Earth's power lines. So the way that this is why people like Lisa Renee are grid workers. Anybody who considers themselves grid workers, where you don't know why you're traveling somewhere or going somewhere to do some kind of energy work, or to bring, maybe music or toning in. It's just, this is kind of like, we're doing it all the time without realizing it. The reptilian energy is a lower octave of the dragon energy, just like every planetary body has different octaves and different levels, or a shadow side. Like the shadow side of Neptune is addiction and escapism. The light side of it is, creative imagination, multidimensional. So those that have that energy are also very empathic and sensitive. So if they feel too much, they want to escape, and they want to maybe have a substance. A lot of it's because they can't stand how much they're feeling. Instead of it being like, oh, you're just an addict, it's like, no, I feel everything, if you're a Neptunian type. A shadow side of like Saturn would be domination, control, limitation, and blockages. But the highest level of Saturn is mastery and being a teacher, and working with the energy of structure and limitation, but in a way that serves the person, because there's refinement, there's discipline, but not the kind that represses, but the kind that serves. And that's when a person's in their mastery versus feeling suppressed by something like Saturn. Okay, so Ophiuchus, the 13th zodiac sign, you know how all zodiac signs are connected to an element? The Ophiuchus is connected to water and ether. So it's interesting because that's the only sign that has an element ether. Because we're dealing with zodiac signs. They all have earth, air, fire, water. So we're only dealing with a part of the pentagram. Without the 13th sign, we don't have that alchemy. That's why it's been easy to manipulate everything. Ophiuchus didn't come in until 2010, so now we've got the ether back. And with our connection with the ether, we're able to complete this 12 strand into 13. And even though it's not happening completely on a physical level, it's happening in our consciousness. And the physical will catch up. It's a slow poke compared to what our consciousness can do, as we know. But it will catch up. So it's also connected to Chiron, the wounded healer. That's the ruler of the 13th sign. So, you think it'd be like some cosmic, crazy, cool planet. It's like, oh, the wounds, oh God. Well, cool, it makes sense. It makes total sense that for us to get in touch with the ether, we have to get in touch with the distortions and the assaults and the abuses and what got robbed and stolen, which is this alchemical marriage, which is the true beauty of coming together with another. Anyway, so a little bit about Ophiuchus. This phase is the solar alignment with the cosmic ether, which is the core of the galactic center, which represents the pouring of healing spiritual waters into the earth and humanity from Mother God. Previously, these waters were corrupted by entrapping the Mother Principle and gold ray seraphim on earth, which is a higher angelic founder race that ended up falling connected to Quetzalcoatl and actually connected to Lucifer. Previously, these waters were corrupted by entrapping the Mother Principle and gold ray seraphim on earth by the knowledge-coveting serpent. Hence, this is also the symbol for the fallen angel. This is why this constellation is both ruled by the golden eagle spirit and the snake. During this ascension cycle, this constellation is to return to its original geometry, to represent the union of all polarity as the perfect blueprint of energetic balance and harmony for humanity. So the wound would be these archetypal, yeah?
You were just doing hours now, right?
Okay, yeah, how much time do I have left? Do I have to be done?
10 minutes ago.
Okay, I'll wrap it up. So, I'm sorry, I just don't have a clock. Oh, I guess I do. Okay, so basically, that's proof right there that the alchemical theme of Ophiuchus is unification and wound healing. So in order to have unification, we have to do the wound healing, and this is what this ascension cycle is all about. And once we get a grip on that, then we're able to heal the relationship of the masculine and feminine, and then we're able to ascend. And when we do this work, we continue to activate ourselves and unfold into our divine purpose, and this is a purpose that we all share. It's not for some, it's not, just so-and-so, and this is why we're all incredibly special, and we're all incredibly tasked with these amazing missions, and we're all equals in this, given the same challenge. And I'm just here to remind us. So anyway, thank you so much.